Okay, welcome back. Um, Sorry for the break. It's a bit difficult to talk in English for this long without a break, and it's essentially talking to the screen. So it's like it brings back, COVID memories where I used to teach, and everyone was just like a black box on Discord or whatever, and it was the stuff of nightmares, really. I don't know why I decided to stream, but that's what we are doing right now. So let's get to it. Let me show you my beautiful desert material. At least I think it's solid, but I didn't mean anything by that. Okay, no ego involved. If you don't like it, you don't like it. You can share your criticisms. I'm only looking to get better. So this is it. This is our little desert rock thing. It's fully procedural. I created the rocks using, I'll show you, but I created this using height maps only. There is no sculpting. There's really nothing else but a lot of noises, right? The result is a bit weird. You can definitely see that it's like digital. I'm not super happy with it. It's okay-ish, but as usual, we have to start with a reference, and you'll see that it somewhat resembles the reference. It's actually quite difficult. So yeah, anyway, like I said, we should begin with a bit of a background of the material. Well, in this case, I don't really have any real life reference. There is not much sand in Prague, and outside of kids' playgrounds, really isn't much sand, and definitely not natural, fine desert sand. So I had to go looking for like online reference, and I found a couple of things, and a lot of stuff that was interesting but not exactly useful. Uh, First of all, this is not a completely original concept, right? Because I'm sure you've heard of this person called Jonathan Benenu. Again, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. My French isn't what it used to be, but he made this a couple of years ago. Actually, I think it's quite a long time ago. He made this beautiful material in Substance Designer. And yeah, so you can see that there are rocks. If you ask me, they also don't look supernatural. They look like miniatures in a way. And he also added some like stylized baked-in lighting, like a lot of edge highlights and all that. I think it's just like not the best idea, but I also did it. Anyway, so this is his result. He also added these like creature tracks, little pebbles, and I think there are some twigs here and there, some roots maybe, or like little, I don't know, worm tracks. Worm sign. Careful. And he also added ants. Well, ants are a bit difficult right now. Not that we couldn't make a nice looking ant, displacement map or model in InstaMAT. That's actually quite possible. What we can't do is make them follow a path. We don't have curve tools yet. It's coming, allegedly. But yeah, it's coming. It's not there yet. So I sort of created a workaround for the creature tracks, but I couldn't really make the ants work, and I didn't really try. So that's that. Sorry, just so yeah. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of messages right now that I don't want. All right, so again, this is the inspiration. This render, I imagine it's from Marmoset. It's actually pretty good because it doesn't showcase the rocks. The rocks are generally very flat. I'm going to show you the real world reference, but they are also not. And so it might have been better to focus on the ants, right? Like he's showing off the material in a way that like makes it stand out. Not to say that he's not an amazing material artist. I love his stuff. I like to follow his stuff a lot. Also, and this is the advantage I had going in, he made a tutorial for this material. You can find it on Adobe Substance 3D Designer. It's actually Adobe Learn, Adobe // Learn. And you can find a lot of tutorials, mostly written tutorials there. Not that he gives a lot of details, but he gives you a general idea of the workflow. So, hey Dan, hey, sorry for just telling you to shut up, but I needed to focus on the stream, you know? So, but glad you're here. Uh, yeah, so Jonathan told us about his process, you know, and so how he created the rocks, how he sculpted them, using all the it's not sculpted in a ZBrush or anything. It's sculpted using noises, just like I did, right? He shared a technique how to create sand, which I like made use of a little bit, not entirely, and some of his detailing stuff, and like how he put it all together. So pretty good, pretty good. Something to to have as a reference was very useful. And now for the real world reference. Um, so I found this. I don't know what this address means, but there was a person who I imagine a geologist who has this like ancient-looking website with like actually pretty amazing high-res photos or semi-high-res. Yeah, and you can. I don't know if we can. We can't. It's like ancient, right? But you can find you can Google this, and there are a lot of images that will help you. And this is my reference file. These are the images I took, and they are all from like a couple of tens of square kilometers of desert in Qatar. And you would be surprised, but this is not a render. This looks very artificial. Actually, a good friend of mine and an artist thought this was a really good render. It's not. It's a photo. All right. So you can see that the reference kind of approaches, or like my material and definitely Jonathan's material approaches the the reference, but it's very difficult to get this sort of look, very like harsh directionality with these like edges, but at the same time it feels very natural. And the balance between like Voronoi cells, stretch Voronoi cells, which is how you get this look for the most part, and this rock is that this is a real rock and the other one is a Voronoi cell, and so like you have to break it up, but at the same time it like keeps looking digital until it doesn't look digital at all, but it's just noise. So it was like almost impossible for me to get it right, and I tried and I tried. I'll show you how deep the rabbit hole goes, right? Here you can see another one, which we are going to use which I used as a color reference for the most part. You can see that this is all dependent on lighting, right? Like this is all from the same area, more or less. And you can see at times the sand looks very red and very brown, and the rocks look gray, and at times it's very yellow and like middle grays for the sand. Sometimes it's almost like black and white with like reds. Red pebbles. This is like the best I think we got for the sand and its structure. You can see that there are a lot of small pebbles. I actually didn't add that many, but maybe I should. And then you can see like a macroscopic sort of, I don't know if detail is the right word, macroscopic reference. I imagine this is just like this would be like a few meters here, like maybe 2 meters, something like that. And you can see that we get these like whites here where the wind sort of doesn't affect the sand as much, and the sun maybe doesn't affect it as much. You can see that the rocks can be very light, very bright, very white almost. Here we have another kind of rock, and like maybe this was like washed away. This looks like there was some sort of maybe water running. Maybe it's desert, right? Who knows? But you can see that it's like very craggly. It's very broken up. It's not at all the same kind of rock that we have here. This like very abrased kind of rock. Here you have extreme abrasion, almost discolored. Yeah. And this is like a really nice image. I think this would be a really good render for the material to present it a little bit, right? But you can see that the rocks can be actually quite like protruding quite a bit. So a lot to choose from. I ended up going for these two primarily as my reference. So that's what we were trying to create. That's what I was trying to create. So yeah, desert. Okay. Where am I? Here. All right. Now, as you can see, like my rocks are much whiter than Jonathan's, and especially than some of the stuff in the reference. The sand, I think, approaches the middle photo that I had. Where is it? Here. Yeah. I also have the exposure cranked up quite a bit. Right now it's at 2. If I go away, you can see it's starting to blow out very quickly. This would be like the average exposure that InstaMAT recommends. For the HDRI I'm using is this one. It's actually my favorite HDRI right now because it's neutral. It's mostly neutral, and so it doesn't add like harsh reds and harsh blues. I like this one. It's also like it almost approaches the studio lighting setup like this, right? That this will show you like, but you can see that we are getting a lot of like yellows here, so that's not the best sometimes. But it should be white, I think. It's like white. Okay? So it's always good to test with multiple lighting setups, obviously, and it's even better to test in your like final rendering engine, of course. I haven't done that yet, by the way. All right. Let me go back to the environment I had before. Here. No, that's not it. Sorry. Was it that? Oh, but I lowered the intensity. Yes, that's it. All right, that's it. Okay, I used this one because it's more directional, and it like showed me the like occlusion that I had for the sand, right? So it shows me the waviness a bit more. Okay, now how did I make this, right? Well, let me show you. So the graph is a bit long. It's not the worst, but there are a few things hidden there that actually are in these subgraphs. So obviously we need to start with the rocks, right? Now, I think I mentioned Mr. Chunk on YouTube. He already made a pretty interesting video where he uses the InstaMAT's actual like geometry generators, like really a 3D geometry generator, not just displacement map, not just noise generator, approach to making rocks. I think it's a total overkill for something like this, especially when the rocks are very flat. But it works, right? You could create your little rock generator from real meshes, and then you can render height. He has an amazing render depth. I can't speak anymore. Again, render depth. And yeah, that works. I chose a different approach. Just wanted to see if it's also like feasible. And I created my own rock generator. It's not that complex of a graph. You can see that this is the result, which already like looks a bit like the final rock we need. And it's very simple. You start with a shape, like some shape, right? It can be a square, it can be a polygon, it can be something that has some sort of definition, right? And then you start distorting it as like according to the reference. It's a bit difficult. It's a bit of a guessing game, right? Like what kind of warping, what kind of blurring, what kind of sculpting stuff you need. It's a bit funny, but this is what I got. So we start with a stretched out Berlin noise, right? Like everything I'm going to be doing, or almost everything I'm going to be doing, will be adding directionality to the shapes, right? Because the reference is extremely directional. So directionality is the name of the game. And so we have directional warp, and we just like distort the shape a little bit. Then we subtract a few parts using the minimum. I don't know if that actually does anything. Does it? Wait. Weird. Oh, no. It's just like using this gradient to subtract this. It works with different seeds, but it's fine. Maybe not everything here is optimized. I haven't really gone through the graph, so this is actually unimportant for this piece of rock. But as you'll no doubt notice, come on, load. Come on. Okay, InstaMAT is overloaded. I'm using a couple of these rock generators. And so what I wanted to sort of cut off these like vertical parts of the rocks so that I wanted to have a sort of a rectangular shape, right? Or like a, what's the word? Yeah, rectangular, I guess. Uh, like an oblong shape. That's the word. All right, going back to the directional rocks generator. So that's what the gradient is for. Not that important. Then I'm using a random scatter just with the shape that I had before and basically subtracting it from it. I have this exposed. I don't have to do this, right? And this will be exposed for the node in the main graph as well. So you can like adjust it on the fly. So that's that. Right now I'm not subtracting anything. I guess I could switch it off, but that's fine. Then some more directional warp. You can see like I'm adding natural sort of bending on the rock. This is a very common technique. I don't know if I need to explain this. Then I'm taking this anisotropic noise, warping it, blurring it, etc. Oh my god, I clicked on the save transform again. Anyway, doing the usual stuff, and then I'm running it as a difference. What it does with some mask from before, actually with itself, it creates these sort of indents, right? Right now I'm not too worried about these lines here because they are going to be hidden by all the other stuff we are going to be doing, but it sort of starts like creating height differences, differentiation, variance, variety, whatever, on your rock. Yeah. Again, not 100%. Like you can see what it does. Like it created a little bit of breakage here, right? Like it's not that important. I could crank it up. But you see what it does. It's not like all of these like small steps will amount to a lot in the end, right? But the more you add, the less control you will have, as usual with these graphs, right? All right, the main noise that actually is very useful for this is the cellular. That's also a word that Czechs can't pronounce. Cellular noise, which is a Voronoi noise, a type of it anyway. Where is this? It's not listed under Voronoi, but it's definitely Voronoi, right? Here, this is what it is. And again, I disconnected the scaling lock and I stretched it. I stretched it a lot, right? And so you can see that it starts creating these almost, well, these cells, these indents that we are going to be using, right? We are going to be needing. You can play with the settings, obviously, softness and stuff like that. Well, this noise on its own doesn't do it, right? You have to do a lot of stuff to it. You have to warp it. So again, we are slow blurring it. Low intensity, I think I just adjusted the thickness, again, not entirely necessary. And I'm taking another noise and directional warping it to get a bit of differentiation here and there. In 4 directions, actually. So what it does, it sort of like blends the image with itself, I guess, in like a few directions at the same time. You know how directional warp works, right? Anyhow, so yeah, we keep blending it over the rock. You can see that it's like we are already getting these like edges, or hopefully you can see it on YouTube. And again, we are adding more stuff like that. Now, this terrace noise, I'm really not sure about it. It's cute, right? Like it looks as some rock, and I actually like burned it into the into the shapes, so it started giving me some of those like really cut-ins that we have here, right? I didn't want to do it manually. I wanted some noise to do this for me, so I used this terrace noise. I was experimenting. I was just like picking noises and almost at random and trying what they are going to do. There wasn't really much planning involved, and so I did that. I don't know if it's good. You can see what it does. It creates these fractal terraces, which is something you would use in a terrain generator quite a bit. For example, in something like Jaya or I guess World Creator. Um, there is a set of nodes that will do the same thing, like this sort of terracing. So I thought, why not? All right, we are warping it more with some other noise, actually with the same clouds ridged noise. This is a nice rock noise, it works. Then we have clouds heavy, which is just your fractal noise again. And I started playing with this non-uniform blur. There is a bug with it right now. It changes direction with the sample count, which is not supposed to happen. Already reported. I don't know if it's already fixed. Maybe Dan can tell us, but it's not a big deal. You can always transform it to sort of match the direction you want after the fact. You might break the tiling. It's not perfect, but it's fine, right? Especially for something like this, because we are really not tiling. We are creating rocks. And so what it does, it creates these like smaller directional. It's like creating like a custom directional noise. Yeah, so it creates these like indents, this like wind abrasion detail. I hope you can see it. I don't know if I can turn on. Yeah, it makes it a bit brighter. So it's like these really subtle lines there. Yeah. Okay. Then I also used the same technique with like different settings. So again, I'm not sure if I can explain what non-uniform blur does exactly. So you have the input, which is the original image, right? And then you have the intensity input, which is by how much it blurs. So essentially what it's going to do, it's going to blur the white parts more than the black parts, I think. And it also does something strange. I think it like does something similar to directional warp. It sort of overlays the shapes over itself a couple of times. That's the sample count, right? And like moves them in a few directions. So in this case, I actually turn the direction to 1, so that I get only one direction in which the shapes get overlaid. Again, there might be someone much more qualified to explain what the non-uniform blur does. That's how I understand it. That's how I made sense of it when I was experimenting with it. It's actually the first time I'm using this, right? Like I think it's a very common node to be used in procedural material creation, but this is the first time I've actually really played with it, and yeah, you can get some interesting results. So what I'm doing, I'm just taking two noises. And like warping them together, or like non-uniform blurring them together, and I got these interesting shapes. I wasn't expecting that, but it's cool. So I kept it, and I'm using that to slope blur the shapes. Yep, just more variation. I don't know if it's necessary. It felt nice. It gives it more of a like a compound look, I guess, right? Like it's not just like this shape with some noises on it, but it starts to separate the edges a little bit more. And yeah, here. I don't know if it's exactly what I wanted, but that's what it is. Yeah, more warping. Not all of it is necessary. I was just like making stuff as I went. All right, we are blurring the thing a little bit. Yeah, because if you don't, you start getting these like weird tearing shapes. Maybe this is a bit too strong. Doesn't matter, because in the end we are going to be using this a couple of times at a much smaller resolution, so a lot of the detail will actually be sort of blurred out, but at the time I wasn't really thinking that far ahead. I was just like playing with a rock generator, which seems to be the recurring theme for me. I like start working on something very small actually, and it becomes this huge project, and yeah, and then it creates problems. All right, more blending. Again, I take this terrace noise. This time it's again a different version of directionality. Again, I stretched it, and yeah, blending it over with maximum this time to create more details. The same with, oh my god, the same with the noise we created earlier. I just scaled it down, right? Like I created a more, yeah, I scaled it down. You see what it does, right? Like I don't have to explain it verbally. And yeah, it's more breakup, more detail. I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully you can. This is like this little breakup detail. At this point, I'm just like piling noises upon noises. I don't know if it's entirely necessary, but you get a principle. It's not really that difficult. Now, in the end, I added some fine detail in case, just in case, someone wanted to use this as is, right? I can again upload the generator somewhere later, and so I just added the fractal sum, auto leveled it, created some more definition, and there is this lovely stone noise, which has to be one of my favorite noises. And yeah, this adds detail. It like creates this little breakup. I don't know if you can see it. Let me show you again. Boom, 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 boom. Right, like you get these little stony breakups. It won't show that much in the height map, but it definitely shows in the normal map. So here you can see these like little details. And I didn't want to go any further than that with the detailing. I certainly didn't want to create like any curvature maps or anything, because this is just a generator. And it's not meant to be used on its own, right? Like it's just a piece of displacement that we are going to use to create the final rocks. And they will need additional sculpting or additional adjustment for them to become a part of that environment, right? So I didn't want to do more. Now, this is something I've only just learned. When you don't have a normal input, you don't see anything. I mean, it's there. You can see that the displacement is there, but you don't see anything. So that's a bit of a gotcha. If you just try to preview this as a 3D material, it's going to give you the displacement, but it's also going to give you the texture that drives it, and that's not necessarily what you want, right? Like you don't want to be like have this very white thing in your face while you're modeling. So yeah, you can add normal. My only issue with this is that it's going to get computed for the final generator as well, but at this point it doesn't seem to take too much, right? It's like a very quick thing. So it's a very simple shape, so I don't think we need to worry about that too much. So yeah, if you want a decent preview while you're working, the normal map always shows more details than the height map, right? And the height preview. So like whenever I work on height maps, what I tend to do is I just here and there I tend to pull out a height to. Let me show you somewhere else. For example, here. I don't know, height to normal. Yeah, and the height map will show you a lot more details that your eye can see, and you can adjust accordingly. So that's a little tip that I've been using quite a bit. So yeah, this is the directional rocks generator. Basically, a lot of noises piled on a very weird shape that might become a rock in the future. Yeah? All right. Again, I'm gonna take a short break. You can, express your disagreement in chat, or ask questions, or express your undying love for my streams. Go ahead, and I'll drink my tea. Okay. Okay. All right. Nothing's coming up, so that's the rock generator. I'm going to close this. All right. Let's load the main graph again. Here we go. So how did I get here, right? From the very weird shape that's this to something like this. Well, it's essentially this setup here. So I took a few of these generated rocks. You can see that actually this one was nice. I got lucky with the seed. It created a breakup on its own. I think I actually had one grunge map at the beginning that really subtracted a lot from the shapes. Like I used a minimum, I think, there, and yeah, that's the result. So I really wanted to keep this one. Like when you begin doing this, like you have to be careful, right? Like you don't want to use more than like 3 or 4, because the processing time can get a bit high. Like already we are at like 1,000 milliseconds with just these generators. So it's not ideal, but that's how you have to work, I guess. But you could always work at 2K and it's going to be perfectly fine, right? Like I'm showing you at 4K. I didn't work at 4K the whole time. Or maybe I did actually for this material, but I try to switch to 2K as much as possible when I'm not working on fine detail. Anyhow, yeah, so I took a couple of these and transformed them. In hindsight, it was a bad idea to have all the directionality there to begin with if I was going to transform them, right? But I didn't think that far ahead. And then I started like sort of eating into them. I started subtracting them from one another, placing them where I wanted them. This curve snow doesn't do anything. I started like adjusting their height using the curve snow. So basically, this is another way of interpolating between values in maps, in black and white maps mostly. This side is the 0, this is the 1, and you should like try to control the histogram there. Unfortunately, the histogram function is broken right now. You don't see anything, and sometimes when you do see something, it's like completely uninteresting. At this point, it just gives me this line here, right? Like it shouldn't be that. Reported, not sure if fixed yet. Anyhow, so that's how I started creating my rocks, styling them as I liked. Yeah, sometimes I subtract something like a gradient from them to sort of chop a bit of them away, and also to create a bit of a fall off so that they would like sink into the sand a bit more naturally. Of course, that's not enough on its own to create a natural blending of the sand with the stones, but we'll get there. Yeah. So I ended up with something like this. And this is already corresponding to the shapes we have, right? Here. So yeah, what did I do here? I don't remember. I ended up not using it anyway. I can see that. I think I was trying to create like a small pebble stones out of this. I am going to delete this later. But yeah, it didn't work out. I ended up creating new pebbles from something else. So yeah, that's it. Actually, I don't really see my pebbles that much. There should be a lot more of them there. You can see a few of them, but there should be a lot more of them. I think I messed up somewhere. I'm gonna fix it. Okay, so that's phase 1. Yeah, that's the base of our rocks height map. Now, what is this? Yes, I also added a few extra rocks here and there with the guided scatter. So guided scatter is like the powerhouse of a node. If you know the tile sampler from Substance Designer, this is it, but better, I think. At least as far as I know. I'm not sure. But what I did here is just I used just one aspect of it. I created these. I took more of these shapes, I guess, put them as an input, and it picks randomly from them or among them, and places them according to this mask. So where it's white, it's going to allow for the rocks to be spawned. Where it's black, they won't show there, right? So basically, what I wanted is to add some of these rocks, but not on my stones, right? I didn't want to touch these anymore. So that's how this works. So we end up with like little details here and there. Some of them won't show like above the sand, but since this height map is going to drive some of the other effects around this sand effect, right? You will see maybe some of it, and it definitely affects the warping of the sand, and it affects the albedo of the sand. I don't know how much you can see it on YouTube. Again, I'm gonna increase the exposure. There is a bit of white like in the direction of my hypothetical wind, and which was coming like from this diagonal side, like diagonally from the right side in my head, and so I added some of the whites that we saw in the reference behind the flowers, right, like around the flowers or plants or whatever. All right, now this node here, it adjusts the height. If I turn this off, and it's going to need a bit of time to load, I think. Does it show? Does it not show? Like if I just put it on. Okay, I don't know. It's very subtle because there are a couple of these adjustments there. Again, don't do this if you want to have a nice and controllable graph, but you know, I wasn't really thinking about it at the time. I'm trying to flatten it out basically because the rocks, if you really like make the height difference between the 0 and 1 like too pronounced, you will get a lot of tearing, first of all, and secondly, you will get shapes that are not they don't look as abrased as like sanded, you know. So that's why I'm doing that. I did it here. I also did it here a couple of times, I'm pretty sure. Here, I think. I'm also like adjusting the shapes. And there might be another one down the line. Yeah, rocks curves again here. And you can see this is like actually quite radical. I don't know if we are going to see what it does. Yes, you can see like this actually brought back some of the detail, whereas the previous curves like flattened it out. Okay. And yes, so as you can see, I said some sculpting required because I wasn't happy with the shapes. I wasn't happy with the directionality I was getting. This actually, I hate this shape. I don't know how to get rid of this. I don't know where it happens in the graph, but like, you know, it's awful. But whatever. Let's look at this other rock. That's prettier. All right, here. And so I took two anisotropic noises, basically your super directional noises, used some directional blur, which created a bit of a like wind effect over them, slow blur them to get different sizes, transform them, warp them, leveled it out, blurred it to get rid of the sharp edges, and I did it twice, and I blended them together. So in fact, I'm multiplying them, so like I only get the blacks basically from both images, and I'm using that to subtract that from my shapes. Again, I started using make seamless because a lot of these noises are simply not tileable, and I was working at this like 45-degree angle. In hindsight, I shouldn't have done that. That creates a lot of problems, right? Like I should have been working with a well, 90-degree angles, and maybe then adjust the sand, because the sand can be adjusted much easier than the rocks. But since I already like placed them here and then started sculpting again, I had to adjust the directionality. It was a pretty stupid move. Don't do that. Plan ahead, right? Anyhow, and as I can see actually here, the directionality is like not adjusted for it. But this might be actually safe transformed. No, it's not. No one sees anything, okay? No one sees any breakup in tiling. That's fine. As long as you don't see it, it doesn't exist. That's how world works. So yeah, denial. Yeah. So adding directionality to our shapes. And then I'm doing that again, this time at a smaller size. So like of course, this is like a very basic thing that any artist knows, right? But you start from the large shapes and work your way to like really small detail, right? And so that's what I'm doing right now. Essentially taking this beautiful cellular noise, warping it so that it again creates this natural distortion, warping it again, and it starts creating these lovely little ridges. And I really like that. I'm making it. Oh my God, safe transform. You're the bane of my existence. Yep, we have to let it load again. Oh my God. Oh my God, InstaMAT. Thank you. Yeah, you make it smaller yet again, and do the same again. Warp it, create more ridges, warp it, create even more ridges, shift it to the side, warp it again to give it some general waviness, not too visible, and subtract some noise to break it up, and then do the stupid transform make seamless because I'm an idiot, and then you blend it in again. I'm basically using this opacity mask every time. It's the previous input, the previous height map result, right? I only want to affect the rocks as they are from the previous step. So I'm not really, how do I put this? I'm not really interested in like adding stuff around the rocks. So that's why I keep like blending it with the opacity mask of itself, right? Now, what do we have here? Even more sculpting required. Yes, even more sculpting required. So I took some noise that I had before. I'm pretty sure that that's. I have a noise repository here. This is when I started doing it. Basically, all the noises that are very much reusable, like your clouds heavy and your Berlin noises at different sizes, and like your fractal sums and stuff like that. You can safe transform them to make them smaller. You can level them out to get different masks. You can rotate them. You know, there's a lot you can do. So you don't have to like use a new noise every time. It saves some performance, I imagine. So yep, that's what I'm taking. Probably a cellular noise. I can't pronounce that word at all. Cellular. And what I'm doing here is a bit strange, but it actually worked out. I clamped it quite a bit. I clamped it, so I'm getting like a really contrasty, almost black and white mask. That's something the edge detect that's probably built into flood fill can handle, right? And I wanted to isolate some of the sort of indents that I was creating this way. And then I used flood fill to color, which gives you in a grayscale mode, which gives you random grayscale per flood fill island, right? And so that's what I got. I warped it a little bit to create again more detail, and I'm blending it in. I'm subtracting. It's very subtle. It's like 3% subtraction. It's a small detail, right? Like you don't want to eat away all the rocks, so it's a small detail, but it adds something to it, I hope. I'm gonna try to show you. I'm gonna switch it off. Let's see what it does. It doesn't really show that much because there are so many effects, but yeah, there are these like small things. Again, something that you would see very well in a normal map. So let's go height to normal. Yeah, and let's see if I can switch it off. You can see it's kind of like changed heavily. Yeah, the normal map. So that actually goes a long way for the normals anyway. All right. I mean, there is also a lot of lag. I don't know if this is something you see on YouTube, but this gets a bit blurry sometimes because my GPU is not that great. So sometimes I don't get the accurate previews. But yeah, you get a sense of what's going on here. All right. I also created some additional smaller ridges, which is this node. Again, cellular noise. Again, this weird Voronoi noise. This time I beveled it a little bit, sharpened it a little bit, and this is going to create some of these like, I don't know, some of these like little ridges here and there. It's a detail. It's a detail. It's there. Trust me. All right. Moving on, Cracks Organic, and another of my favorite nodes because you can create so many different cracks with this. So yes, Cracks Organic will give you anything from like stone cracks to, let's say, organic patterns like something you would see on a bark, maybe on bark, or I don't know, like, yeah, wood, skin, leather, stuff like that. It's really useful. I think the most important setting there is actually the distortion. The more distortion you add, the more sort of grungy it's going to look, because it's going to start tearing these lines with directional warp. And of course, this merge node is very important, and the width node. Sometimes I'm actually going very low with the width because I want like a hair thin hairline cracks in this case. But you could go the other way and make very thick cracks, very thick patterns with that. So I don't know if you can see, but I have these. Where are they? Yeah, for example, this is a crack, right? That goes through the whole stone. I didn't want to add too many of them because the reference didn't have that many of them. I think most of the cracks, they sort of like, I think the stones are very soft. They are probably like limestone, and so they fall apart quickly, rather quickly in geological terms, and the cracks don't really stay there that long because there is this constant erosion by wind, this abrasive erosion, and so it disappears quite quickly. So I didn't want too many of them, like there are here and there, right? So yeah, what you do to your cracks, you obviously warp them, you slow blur them. Oftentimes you can use a minimum to sort of eat into them. Then you use a bit of bevel to sort of blur it out. I did a bit more of that, and then I subtract them. I don't know, can we see? We can't see, but it's there. Trust me. All right, then I noticed that the rocks are quite porous in a way. At least there are a lot of like these dots and pits on them. So that's what I created. It's very simple. You create a ball, in this case a gradient radial, which is like if you know in Substance Designer there is this paraboloid shape. It's very similar. Just use gradient radial. It's very cheap. You can do that. Then I scatter it randomly. This gives you like a dots noise, I suppose. This could be a base for like spots grunge. I warp them a little bit. Then I iterate, so I create more of them at different sizes, and some of these like warp shapes get repeated. It's very subtle. I don't know, like I overdid it, but it's there. And yeah, we bring back some of the values using levels, and boom, we subtract them. Again, that's not something you're going to see in the height map easily, but you can definitely see it, right? Like it's there. And height to normal. And here we go. We have all little dots, little spots, little bits. So, detail. Actually, this might be a bit too early for this kind of detail because it's actually quite small, but I did it anyway. Yeah. What do we have? Again? Oh yeah. So this is one of my favorite techniques. I use grain noise, which looks like this, right? And it's maybe it's too small for what you need. And so one way of like sort of inflating a shape is to slow blur it with itself and use the maximum. And it's going to give you these little like bubbles, grains of sand. And if you level it, then it doesn't show like much, especially on YouTube, I imagine, but you get like bigger specks and smaller specks, right? You clamp it and you bring it back a little bit sometimes. I think I did that down the line. Again, I warped it a little bit. I think this time I'm warping it with a... No, it's just noise. I don't know why I did that. I did a lot of things, okay? A lot of things that I'm not entirely sure why I did them. But that's what happens, right? And yeah, again, I subtract these. So you have these like larger bits and smaller granular bits. And then for like really small detail, I just took a stone noise or maybe some fractal noise. I'm not entirely sure right now. Yes, it's the sloped fractal sum. It looks a lot like stone noise, right? Like it's very similar. It's again another version of fractal sum. So I used this one to change it up a little bit. I liked that it gave this like very rock-like feeling. I'm gonna be using that a lot. So it's not just for this super small detail, but for other stuff as well. So yeah, and I'm just like adding a little bit of it into the shape. Again, like add subtract at like 2%, right? Like it's not game breaking or anything. It's not going to change the overall look of the material, but it's going to create some interest. Again, something you will see in the normal map, and therefore it's something that's going to be taken in by the albedo map. All right. Yeah, I sharpened it a little bit because I was losing a bit of the definition on the rocks and I wanted them to be a bit sharper. Yep. All right, so that's the height map for the rocks. It's not the best. This is actually the first time I've tried something like this in this kind of software. So please be gentle in the comments if there are any comments at all ever. But yeah, I think the general workflow is there. You create your generator. You create, if you like, to sort of manually position your rocks and shape them a little bit. You do this. Then you start like sculpting them a bit more to fit the environment and your reference. I still hate these ridges. I hate these ridges so much. I wish I knew what I did and where I did it so that I could get rid of it. But you know, I guess that's for another material. Yeah, and then you start adding like middle detail and like you know, very small detail and very very small detail and like infinitesimally small detail. You know, Leibniz would be happy, and that's it. That's the height map for the rocks anyway. So I think I'm going to stop here. I don't know when I'll stream again. Probably sometime during this week. I can't promise anything, but I would like to. You know, I got into it a little bit. And yeah, we are going to talk about the sand creation and then how we put it all together. And of course, the albedo maps for the sand and for the rocks. And in the end, we are going to bring it all together, create a roughness map. This time it's not too difficult, and just some normal flaking for the normal map. Actually, this is wrong. This is not how you do it. I'll fix it and show you. And that's it. Yep, that's it. So, have a good night. Thank you for your patronage. Do we say it like this in this case? Thank you for watching, you know. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.